Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Make America Civil Again. Today's topic is abortion. But before we begin, I always ask you to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell though, so that you can be reminded every Wednesday that your favorite YouTube interviewer has posted a new video. Today, back by popular demand, my dad. So, Pops, thanks for coming on again. Today we're going to be talking about specifically Margaret Sanger and abortion specifically. So before we begin, Dad, you want to say a little bit about yourself for those who don't know much about you?
Well, okay, live in Las Vegas, been here for 40-something years now, raised a family, you and your two brothers, been married to your lovely mother for 35 years, and yeah, soon to retire.
Why is abortion such an important topic that we should be discussing?
Abortion has kind of been in the forefront for a long time, and I think now, since the election of Donald Trump, there seems to be a lot of issues currently on the table, and abortion is one of those hot topics. People are hoping that with the Supreme Court, it will get reversed, Roe versus Wade, that would get reversed, because people, honestly, there's probably a greater majority in America that like abortion, but it's not portrayed that way. I think the media makes it look like more in favor of it, but you have some flyover Americans that are not in favor of it, and they kind of, that count gets suppressed in the mainstream media, so to speak. So yeah, there's a lot of people that aren't in favor of it.
When we talk about abortion, there's one name that I think isn't mentioned that needs to be. This person has had a lot to do with where we are in our country when it comes to abortion today. And that individual is Margaret Sanger. So my question to you is, who is Margaret Sanger?
It's really ironic, but she was born and raised, I should say, lived many, many years in the same town where I lived and grew up. She has a background that a lot of times is not suppressed. I mean, that is suppressed because of, I think, a lot of people don't want you to know who she is, so it's suppressed. But if with just minimal investigation, you can find out for yourself. I had an interesting experience when I went back to Corning, New York, where Margaret Sanger lived and where I lived for a number of years. I went to the Chamber of Commerce just to find out where she actually lived in Corning, because I never knew that until I moved here and started doing a little bit of research on my own. And while I was in Corning, I went to the Chamber of Commerce and I said, where does Margaret Sanger live? And where did she go to church? And asked those kind of questions. And they were proud to say, well, Margaret Sanger, yes. And they stuck their chests out, because sitting on a corner and next to one of the main drags in Corning is a Planned Parenthood with Margaret Sanger's name, right across the front. So they gave me the information. So while the gentleman was gathering up little pamphlets and information, an older lady was behind the counter, and I said, what do you know about Margaret Sanger? And she says, well, they just knew that she was an individual that was for women's rights. She was an individual who wanted to see something about birth control. And I just said, you know what? You should look it up, because she was actually not a very nice woman. She was pretty dark. So while the young man was gathering information, she went over to the computer and started looking things up. And about 5 minutes later, she said, oh my gosh, this woman was a monster. Yeah, that's what she said, And it's like, here you are in the Chamber of Commerce, which is okay, handing things out, but they never knew anything about Margaret Sanger. They didn't know any of her viewpoints, any of her actions, and what she stood for and represented.
The lady that looked on the computer, did she tell you what she saw to say, wow?
No, she just reacted because of the information. She's with a little bit of research and with a little bit of reading, she reacted
Negatively.
Negatively.
What is eugenics? Like, what is that?
Well, basically, it's a way of, well, kind of like what Hitler. Hitler was doing it. Hitler's thing was, we're going to have blonde-haired, blue-eyed, the great white race, so to speak. And so basically that's what she was. We want to control races. We want to control and bring about a particular kind of breed of person that we think. For example, she considered black people weeds. These are people that need to be executed. They don't need to be living. As a matter of fact, she didn't feel that those who were intellectually handicapped, they shouldn't be granted life either, and neither should black people. You can read her quotes where she even said, actually, the Negro, we have to use preachers to help get the message out, along with we also have to use educated black people to help eliminate the Negro race.
How does Margaret Sanger tie into Planned Parenthood?
Well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
There's something that, and I have to recognize this because it's so plainly honest, but I think over a period of time, people fall asleep or they forget. For example, liberalism changes words on us. They change the meaning of words. For example, Planned Parenthood originally was called the Negro Project, but they had to change the name for obvious reasons. So those are the kind of things you go, really? The Negro Project? Yeah, we have to eliminate and exterminate the black race. And I understand, and I might be wrong with stats, but I think since the inception with abortion, they've killed enough black children to actually to whatever the population is of New York City, that's how many black babies have been murdered.
So a couple million.
Yes, murdered, not.
Margaret Sanger started the Negro Project and it turned into Planned Parenthood. So how has Planned Parenthood affected the black community?
When I was growing up, there were lots of grandparents, uncles, and aunts who would raise that baby. We had a strong family unit for the longest time. However, the way the Democratic Party has worked in the black community, they have literally deceived us over the years, and we've adopted some practices that we didn't used to do.
What you'll hear is you want that child to grow up in a low-income society. It's not going to have very much opportunity. It's going to grow up in a terrible environment. So is that what you really want for that child? Like, to be born in that kind of environment rather than, why not have a rare, safe, free now abortion?
That is liberal logic. And liberal logic always, I don't know where their moral compass is. It seems to be pointing south, because who are they to determine whether or not if somebody should have life? That is not their determination. But I tell you a really good example that I heard. And someone was telling me about Ben Shapiro and something he said that I thought was probably one of the best things I ever heard. But let's say you have a loved one and they are in the hospital and they are on life support, but they were told in 9 months they're going to come off of life support and they're going to be just fine. They will come out of the coma. So would you cut that line? No. The 99.9% of the people probably say no. After 9 months, they're gonna be a viable human being. Well, that's a baby, And I thought, that was one of the most incredible analogies. We're killing a little innocent life, but it's become a debate, and that's the dangerous part. They honestly have infiltrated people's mindset and their heart that they can no longer distinguish the difference. That's not good. That's not good.
One other argument that you'll hear a lot is abortions should still be legal because the case of rape, incest, or the life of the mother is at risk. Like, what would you say to someone who tries to make that argument?
Firefighter for 30 years. Went on multiple deliveries. And I can't remember once when there was a problem with them saying, well, this baby is a product of incest. I can't remember once, seeing that. If it was, it must have been behind the curtain, but the idea is I never saw that. And that was always a weak argument with me. Now, that's a very difficult call. And that's the husband, but the idea is to just arbitrarily decide to eliminate the child. You don't have that. Even when they say it's even a woman's right because of her body, then it's a woman's right to kill another woman, potential woman, or really, you have the right to kill another girl, but that doesn't fit logic.
Yeah.
It doesn't, especially today.
I grew up in the Christian tradition. You're obviously a Christian. We're not ashamed to consider ourselves Christians. So as a Christian, why could you never vote for someone who supports abortion?
Well, the Bible does say to support those who are of the household of faith. You have a lot of people who are in the household of faith who run for office who don't endorse abortion. When I read the Bible, there's things that God strongly says, like, I knew you before you even formed in the belly of your womb. Or if you believe in God, or if you believe in, so many people say, spirituality, the Lord clearly said that there's a devil, and he comes to kill, to steal, and destroy. And how do you know that? And I think an old pastor once said to me, he said, how do you know when the wind is blowing? And we thought, wow, really? You could see the effects. You can tell by the trees and people's hair and debris blowing across the ground and stuff. And he said, yeah. He says, so you can see when the enemy, the devil, is at work, because you can see the effects of what he's doing in our society. And you could see why people would even consider that, that is not coming from God. That is coming from someplace else. And there's a plan. Because since the devil can't get back at God, he's going to get back at his creation.
So we heard a little bit about Margaret Sanger and her concept of the Negro Project, and her whole goal is getting rid of the African American race. But is there anything else about Margaret Sanger you wanted to let us know about that?
Margaret Sanger, she went south and met with the Ku Klux Klan. However, she didn't get to meet with the male portion of it. She met with the female portion of the Klan. And I can't remember if she met with them once or twice, but she did. I thought once in my research, I read that she met with Hitler once, but I can't say that because I still look for it and I can't find it again. So maybe I'm mixing it up with something. But Margaret Sanger was definitely a racist. And here Hillary Clinton said that she was one of the greatest women she ever,
So last thing, if you're to be talking to somebody who's watching this right now, and let's say they believe in abortion, they believe in pro-choice, the right to murder an infant in the womb, what would you say to that individual?
You're wrong. And I think it's really that black and white. You're wrong. And it has nothing to do with my feelings. And I heard Tony Evans say this a long time ago. He said that feelings don't necessarily dictate the truth. Let's face it, truth does not discriminate. It just simply is. You can do nothing for the truth, or you can do nothing against it. It just simply is. Now, you can join in with the truth, or you can go in the other direction. But they're wrong. And the thing of it is, how selfish. You're here, but you want to deny somebody else.
So, Dad?
Yes, son?
Thank
you
so
for
much.
having me again.
Hey, no, thank you for taking the time to come on. Thank you, watcher, for watching this episode. Now, you might be a pro-lifer or pro-choicer, and you might have loved what you just heard, or you might have hated what you just heard. Either way, please leave a comment and go over to my Instagram. I post things on there on the time. Go ahead and find the link below this channel and go over to Instagram and interact with me on there. But this concludes this week's episode of Make America Civil Again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. But until next Wednesday, I'm out.